one. Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa bihi nasta'in ala umuri dunya wa din. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya wal mursalin sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, Alhamdulillah, we're going to proceed with the discussion on the history of the earth. Like I said before, that the scientists, they break the history of the earth into 4 periods, but not of equal length. The first one is the Hadean, and the second one is the Archean. The Hadean period takes about 1 billion years, and then the Archean period takes a little bit more than 1 billion, 1.1, 1.2 billion years. But the biggest period is the Proterozoic period, which is about 2 billion years. Then after that, the last part, which is our era, is called the Phanerozoic period, which is about half a billion years. So if you look at this map, right, or this chart here, this bar chart here, the first 1 billion years of Earth history, nothing much happened in terms of life. It is just a period where, what do you call it, the formation of the Earth came about. Then after that, right towards the end of the Hadean period, we have you look at this purple line here at the end is called the prokaryotes. Right? The prokaryote is a unicellular cell, which I will explain later on. So prokaryote cells started to appear. So with the appearance of the prokaryote cell, then that is why people or scientists say the first life started to appear right during Hadean period. Now life here means that it is in the form of cell, right? It is generating its own energy and reproducing itself. How you define life? Life is defined as the ability of an organism. You have to define organism. Organism consists of what do you call it? Organic materials, organic chemicals like ammonia, like protein, and that sort of thing. So the ability of an organism to reproduce, generate energy, takes energy and reproduce, right? So that is the definition of life. Whether that life has conscious or not, that's another matter. Whether that life has spirit, roh or not is another matter. But how you define life? Life is defined as an organism that can reproduce itself, right? You look at other materials, dead materials, for example, rock and wood and other chemicals, they cannot reproduce by themselves, right? They need to have external energy applied to them and intentionally cause them to reproduce. But for life, no, they can reproduce by themselves. So life is defined as such. So life actually begins during the Hadean period and it continues. So there's no other life, right, except the prokaryotes cell life. There's no higher form of life. But then photosynthesis started to happen when the Archean period started to form, which is about 3.5 billion years ago, right? And then it continues on producing more and more oxygen until around 2.3 billion years ago, all these are billions years, okay, 2.3 billion ago, or 2,300 million years ago, right? MA is million years ago. So the atmosphere becomes oxygen rich. The content of oxygen about 2.3 billion years is almost as similar as to the content of oxygen right now currently in our atmosphere, right? So then after that it started to have that cooling of temperature and the earth becomes very cold. That's why it calls first snowball earth. This is just a summary that we go into detail after that. Right? That happens during the Proterozoic period. Then after it moves on all the way, this blue line here, eukaryotes, right? Eukaryote cells, they started to form during the Proterozoic period. Now, what is the difference between prokaryotes and eukaryote cells? The difference is that eukaryotes are more advanced. They are more complex, right? More sophisticated than prokaryotes. So prokaryotes can be defined as very simple organism. Eukaryotes is a more complex organism, even though it is unicellular, only one cell, but there are also multiple cells of eukaryotes, living beings, or we call it as multicellular. We'll go into detail after that. So the multicellular life actually begins after the eukaryote cells started to form more and more complex organism. And then we have multicellular life. Multicellular life, you can have, for example, like a simple, creature like worm, right? That is multicellular, but there is very complex multicellular life. Multicellular life can be a simpler form, can be what they call it, uh, yeah, you can say like those parasites, right? Parasites are multicellular life, but quite complex, but less complex than ants. Parasites, like for example, the malaria parasites, right? Malaria is the disease malaria is caused by this parasite, the malaria parasite. This malaria parasite actually lived inside the brain and the stomach of a mosquito. Imagine that, subhanAllah, Allah created this sort of parasite. It lives inside the brain of the mosquito, and it can control the brain of that mosquito. Imagine that. How can something controls the brain of another creature? You can't even control the brain of a mosquito, even with all the technology that we have. But this very simple multicellular life, the malaria parasite, can actually control the brain of the mosquito and direct the mosquito to suck blood from as many mammals as possible so that they can be injected into the body of those mammals. And once they're injected to the body of those mammals, they will terrorize the mammals' blood cells, and they will tear into the blood cells and live inside the blood cells of that mammals. After that, they will multiply, right, inside the blood cells to the extent that this mammal will eventually die because there's more and more of its blood cell being destroyed by this malaria parasite. So this mammal, including humans, right, cannot survive. So that is, subhanAllah, one of the wonders of Allah's creations. And it really shows, right, the existence of this creator, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's multicellular life. It happens, started during Proterozoic period. Then after that, you can see this green line here is, it represents animals. So animals actually started to form towards the end of the Proterozoic period, about less than, it's about 600 million years ago. Right, 600 million to 700 million years ago, life started to form. So then after that, there is another, right, period of ice age. We call it as snowball Earth. We'll go to detail later on. Then there is what you call the Cambrian explosion about 530 million years ago. Then all the way until now, animals continue to thrive. But animals, they are varied. There are a lot of types of animals. They have these vertebrate and invertebrate animals. Vertebrate animals are those animals with spine, like us. We are vertebrate animals, so we have a very hardy body, right? Invertebrate animals, those animals without spine, so it's very, very cushy, they're very soft. They can like a gel. They can form any shape they want. A very good example of invertebrate animal is the octopus. See, octopus can really compress itself into a very, very small opening and shape because it has no bones, right? No backbones. So that is vertebrate. And then we have all other types of animals. We have the animals with exoskeleton. With, we mammals, right? We have our skeletons inside us. But you look at insects, they have skeletons outside them. Inside them, everything's squishy, liquid, and so forth. But the hardy part is the outside, so it's called exoskeleton. Subhanallah, Allah created every types of animals, right? From those with external bones and those with the internal bones. We are the creatures that have internal bones. We have advantages and disadvantages having internal bones. Then after that, that happens during the Paleozoic period. And you can see here, right, mammals, right? These land animals can be any land animals, can be birds also vertebrate animals because they have backbones. We have lizards, we have also amphibians, we have also all types of creatures, right? Species. Those are land plants and land animals. And then we have also mammals here, started to appear during the Mesozoic period, and it's a period of dinosaur. The Mesozoic period actually can be broken into 3 sub-periods. There is the Triassic, Jurassic, and also Cretaceous period. But the most famous is Jurassic part, the middle part, because we have that movie Jurassic Park, right? But that is the period of dinosaurs. You can see the dinosaurs ruled for millions of years, from 251 or less than that to 65 million years ago, close to 200 million years. Dinosaurs ruled the earth. Then Allah wiped them out in just instantaneously, less than 10 years or less than 100 years, the dinosaurs will wipe out. And then the earth will, like, it's like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala clear up the table, right, for a new creature to form. So then mammals started to rule the earth, and one of the mammals is what you call it as Homo sapiens. We belongs to that Homo family is called Homo sapiens. So our appearance on earth, right, where we say 2 million years ago is first human, we don't call it first human, but first Homo species. Those animals that resemble us, they have 5 fingers in each hand, face, right, on top with neck and body, but there are superficial differences. For example, they are smaller, stockier, they have a bigger ribs, they have smaller bones, they have bigger brain or smaller brains, they have sunken eyes or outward eyes, and so forth and so forth. So these are all these superficial, but these superficial features cannot hide the fact that they resemble the same family like us, the Homo families. Just like we and the gorillas, the chimpanzees, right? We belong to the same Homo families because we are almost similar to them, right? The difference is just superficial. Don't have hair, they have hairy hair, right? They have 4 limbs, we have 4 limbs, but they cannot walk actually for a long period of time on 2 legs. We can, right? So we are the only Homo families that can walk on 2 legs. But Homo sapiens like us, right, the sons of Adams, the children of Nabi Adam alayhi salam, we appeared on this planet Earth very, very late, right? As early as we can tell, is maybe about 70,000 years ago, just 70,000 years. That is early as we can tell, right? The first civilization that we know of, the Sumerian civilization and the Egyptian civilization that built the pyramid, they appeared about 5,000 to 6,000 years ago. 5,000, 6,000 years ago, that's the first civilization, or the earliest or the most ancient civilization. Now, 5,000. The first human might appear, ours, or Nabi Adam, or the children of Nabi Adam salam, might appear around about 70,000 years ago, right? Whereas the Earth has been in existence for 4.6 billion years ago. So we have not been around, not even for 1 million years, not even for 100,000 years. So if you look at, if let's say Earth starts, right, at 12 noon, and now we are approaching 12 midnight, we started to appear on Earth when the time is 11:59, 11 hours, 59 minutes, or 11:59 p.m., 59.5 seconds. So we are just 1 second, or sorry, even not a second, half a second, right, or less than half a second from the strike of the midnight. And the strike of midnight might be the destruction of the earth, Yawmul Qiyamah. We will believe in Yawmul Qiyamah. It might happen at 12 midnight. We appear very, very close to that 12 midnight. That time, right? Until now, if you call it now, is 12 midnight. So we appear quite close to that 12 midnight. And that is why you see the Prophet ﷺ in Hadith mentioned that the earth is very, very old. And the Prophet ﷺ said, I'm being sent to you, right? Like the time for earth is after Asr, or close to Maghrib, something like that, between Asr and Maghrib. So that is actually the Prophet's analogy of the time that we have been in existence on this earth with regards to the whole history of the earth itself. So those who say that the history of the earth started 6,000 years ago, they are completely wrong. they based on just biblical studies. Without they knowing it, they are acknowledging, right, the Bible itself. Whereas we actually cannot acknowledge the Bible, right? So the Bible says, not even the Bible never says that, but some of the Christian scholars, right, the priests in the second or third century BC, also no, second or third century AD, I forgot his name. Bishop Usher. His name is Bishop Usher. He actually calculated the age of all the kings and histories that can be found in the Old Testament, and then he gave his own, what they call it, best estimate on certain periods of time which is not mentioned in the Bible or the Old Testament itself, and he added them together, and he came to that conclusion that Nabi Adam alayhi salam, or Adam, first appeared on earth about 6,000 years ago. And he believed, like all Christians believe, right, that earth was created concurrently with the appearance of Adam alayhi salam on earth. Whereas that was not mentioned in the Quran, it's not mentioned in the Bible itself. That's just that belief. So the conclusion that they can give is that the earth is just 6,000 years ago. 6,000 years old. And that number actually stuck, right? Not just among the Christian fundamentalists, but also among the Muslims. Without they knowing it, they are actually in agreement with the Christian fundamentalists who follow the opinion of this bishop, who is not based on any, what do you call it, robust and academic study of the Bible. He just gave a lot of his best estimates. And the sad thing is that some scholars accept it as a fact, or some say that this is actually from the Quran itself, whereas the Quran never mentions that, the Prophet ﷺ never mentioned that, right? So the earth is much, much, much longer than that. All the geologic formation of earth, the formation of the mountain, the glaciers, this and that, it shows that the earth is very, very, very old. And what more with all the modern techniques of, uranium dating from the radioactivity of uranium, it really shows that quite accurately that the earth forms about 4.5 to 4.6 billion years ago. Okay, so don't fall into that trap of believing that the earth is just about 6,000 years old. And what do you call it? Following that belief that the earth is 6,000 years old, following to that erroneous belief, that Christian belief that earth is 6,000 years, some people, some Muslims, even some scholars, right, they try to form or to draw that, what do you call it, Shajaratul Anbiya, they call it, or the tree of all the prophets from Nabi Adam salam to Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And they started with that tree. They started with Nabi Adam salam and all his children, the 20 children, and then after that his grandchildren and all so forth, and then Nabi Idris, and then Nabi Shith, and so forth, and Nabi Noah and all his 4 children, Sam and whatever, and then his grandchildren, and then after that all the Nabi Shu'aib, Nabi Saleh, everyone interlinked to Nabi Adam salam, and it is quite, very convenient to just draw all these things, right? This is that, this is the daughter of this, descendant of this, name. Now, where did they find all these names? How did they know that these names, right, they are the children of this prophet, and from them came this prophet, and so forth, so forth? Where did they get it? Nowhere from the hadith. They got that from the Bible. They got that from Christian scriptures, right, shared by the Christian priests who embrace Islam, or right, those they got it from the scriptures of the Christians themselves, right? And then the names were there, so they just took it, and then they just take it and they draw the tree of all the prophets, and that is actually not true. First and foremost, it is based on something that is very dubious, and something actually the source that we actually must reject. That the source is from Christian scriptures which we cannot verify. And in fact, we believe that the Christian scriptures, we believe We don't care whether the Christians believe or not, but it is our right to believe what we want to believe. So we as Muslims, we believe that those scriptures have been corrupted by the past Christian priests. And that's why there are a lot of conflicting statements and facts and numbers and names in Christian scriptures in the Bible itself. So we can accept that. The Prophet ﷺ also forbid us from believing everything from the Bible. The Prophet ﷺ tells us that whatever the Christians inform you, right, just keep it quiet. Don't believe it, and don't tell that it is a lie, right? And just say that we believe in Allah. Just here as you know, just an information, right? It's not something that is a fact, right? In fact, it might be a lie, but we cannot actually tell directly that it is a lie, because it might be the truth, unless there are clear evidences that cannot be disputed that those things that we got it from the Christian scriptures are not true. For example, right, this the history of the earth itself, the Christian scriptures written by those priests after Nabi Isa alayhi salam, they calculated. Bishop Usher said that it's about 6,000 years old. That's clearly wrong. So we say it is wrong. We can accept it. And then the history of Nabi Adam alayhi salam, all the descendants of Nabi Adam salam, all the names to Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If you look at those generations, right, from Nabi Adam to Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it fits easily to just about 6,000 years, 5,000 years. So it's a very convenient actually way of drawing up the tree to fit that period of time that was proposed by this Christian Bishop Usher. It's certainly wrong, right? So we can reject that. And then the belief that those people in the past, they live for hundreds of years. Well, Nabi Nuh alayhi salam lived with his people for 150 years, but never in the Quran, not once in the Quran that Allah mentions that the life of his people also lived to the age of 950 years. Well, we have the hadith of Rasulullah SAW that says that the Ummah followed the age of their prophets, right? But that is in general term. Because if that is exactly must happen, then what about us? You know, the Prophet SAW lived to the age of 63 years old, right? And now human lifespan has been increasing. The average lifespan of developed countries, of people living in developed countries, is about 80 to 90 years old. Look at Singapore, right? The average lifespan for males is about 80 years old. The average lifespan for the females is about 85 to 90 years old. That is way, way beyond the age of Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? So it is not a hard and fast rule. It is a general thing. It serves like, you know, a guideline, right? Especially for us. When the Prophet ﷺ said the life of the people follow their prophets, it might be for all prophets or some prophets. It's not clear, right? The Prophet ﷺ, Nabi Muhammad ﷺ never mentioned whether it is a hard and fast rule for all prophets. It can be for some prophets. That's number one. Number two, it concerns us more than those people in the past. We, right, when Prophet ﷺ passed on his age of 63 years old, so for us, when we reach beyond 63 years old, 65 to 70, and beyond that, we can accept all those years, we can accept as bonus years for us. Bonus years. It means that Allah SWT has given us that blessings, you know, for us to spend more time to prepare for our afterlife, for life after death. It's not for us to continue enjoy living on this earth. It is as if you're going to die 100 years after that. No, we can, for those who are discerning Muslims, those who really understand, right, the concept of life itself, and follow that hadith, that the life of people follow their prophets, specifically for us, that if our life extended beyond 63, 65 years old, that is bonus years for us. It is for us to prepare for our life in the hereafter. to devote more time for our life in the hereafter, then have more time spent enjoying this life. We can continue enjoying this life, but we cannot lose sight on the fact that those years are bonus years for us. If you don't utilize those years, then it's such a waste, right? Such a wastage. All right. So going back to this, right? So we have a 4.5 billion years of Earth history. Now, we start with the Hadean period, and we have covered already Hadean period, but just as a summary, right? This is the very beautiful pictorial info on what happened during Hadean period. It's about close to about billion years, 4.6 to 3.8 plus minus 1 billion years. So what happened actually during that, from this end to this end, right? The Earth started with very hot Earth, right? Thousands of degrees Celsius, maybe 1,000, maybe 2,000 degrees Celsius on Earth's surface. Earth is still forming very liquid magma form. I already explained that. And formation of the moon took place during this period, the early part of the Hadean Eon. By the way, Hadean is from the Greek word hell. So scientists, I mean, easily give the word, conveniently give the word Hadean because it is hellish condition. The Earth's surface is very hellish at the time. Water started to form. Now, the question that's being bothering the scientists, and they can't still find the answer, is that where all the water on Earth comes from, right? Where did all this water come from? And I've already shared this before, because you look at Mars, there are water on Mars, might be because there are canals on Mars, but there's no more water on there, all water evaporated already, but Earth can still retain its water. The question is where all this water come from, because Earth is 70% water, 25% mess, 25% land. So there we have a huge volume of water on Earth. Then the formation of the Earth, the moon, and then the core, the accretion, where the core combine together, where I shared with you, the two bodies collide each other, then they form the magnetic field of the Earth that caused the Earth to be suitable for life on it, to life develop on it, because it's been protected by all those dangerous radiation from the sun. And then the late bombardment stage, where you have all these meteors coming in. So you see, this is the artistic description of what Earth might be like, right? It might not be true, but it just has to convey to us what actually happened. So Earth, actually, the whole surface of the Earth is molten lava, right? There's no hard rock, a lot of, mountains, so volcanoes, right? Lava is flowing here and there, for those who have that little bit of what do you call it, insaf in them, imagine this is hell. And hell is worse than this. Temperature soaring. This Earth temperature, surface temperature might be 1,000 degrees Celsius. That's not much compared to the temperature of hell. So when people, Muslims, right, if we study all these things, we actually should, it should actually bring us closer to Allah SWT. It's just not just information, something interesting for us to know. No. Non-Muslims might find it something interesting for them to know, but for us, it's not just something that is interesting, but actually must strengthen our taqwa to Allah, must strengthen our belief in Allah SWT, and must increase our iman to Him, bring us closer to Him, right? Making us a better servant of Allah. Everything that we learn, right? This is the knowledge that Allah SWT has opened for us, the doors of knowledge for us this century, at this time. For what? For us to increase our taqwa to Allah. That's first and foremost. So you look at this thing, right? It's not impossible for Earth to go back to this stage. And it will be. It will be. And I shared with all of you, right, last week, some scenarios towards the end of time. Yawmul Qiyamah, what's going to happen, all those bombardments of these stones and these asteroids, and we destroy the Earth. Kama bada'a, kama Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Zumar, so always this verse, يَوْمَ نَطْوِي السَّمَاءَ كَطَيِّ السِّجِّلِ لِلْكُتُبِ كَمَا بَدَأْنَا أَوَّلَ خَلْقٍ نُعِيدُ. How we begin creation, that's how we're going to end it. Okay, so that is something that is very, very scary lah. But inshallah, we're not going to face this scenario, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will save us. Those who believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we will not those who believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not see the end of time. Only those, the worst of the worst generation, the really worst generation, will live during that time and witness the destruction of the earth. There'll be no more Muslims during that time. Okay, so now formation of the moon happened during the Hadean period. This is the pictorial graph, how it happens. Proto-Earth, and then proto means before the formation of Earth. Right now is what it is. The original Earth collided with another planet called, conveniently called Theia. You can call it whatever you want to. So this is the impact, and then finally it formed the Earth and the Moon itself. So I'm going to repeat the formation of the Earth and Moon again. You can refer to my previous videos. And then we move on to the Archean Eon, just about 3.8 to 2.4 billion. We can say about 1 billion years lah, right? The next 1 billion years. What happened during next 1 billion years, right? Water started to form, right? And because previously there was water, but it was so hot, water cannot form its liquid state. But when the temperature drops to below 100 degrees Celsius, so water started to form in its liquid stage, right? So they form oceans, bodies of water on Earth. And with water comes the first DNA. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says this in Surah Al-Anbiya, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created everything from water. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and that is in context of the creation of the heavens and the earth. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in that ayat, أَوَلَمْ يَرَى الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا أَنَّ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ كَانَتَا رَتْقًا فَفَتَقْنَاهُمَا وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ أَفَلَا يَعْقِلُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says here, right? Didn't the unbelievers see, discover, know, learn? Of course, we can't see for our own eyes because it happened in the past, right? Didn't we know, or didn't the unbelievers know, that the heavens and the earth, they were joined together? The heavens here refers to the atmosphere, not the stars up there, right? Samawat is our atmosphere. Ratqan, they were joined together. So there were no atmosphere on earth during the Hadean period, or early formation of the earth. Then atmosphere started to form, right? Where this atmosphere come from? This atmosphere, they came from the earth itself. Because Allah SWT says in that ayat in Surah Al-Anbiya, I think verse 30 or verse 33, something like that, فَفَتَقْنَاهُمَا, and we separate them. We separate the earth and the heavens, the earth and the atmosphere. So they were joined together. The atmosphere was inside the earth, right? Trapped inside rocks and so forth. So when it was heated by the hot earth and it evaporated, it produced all this gas, whether it's nitrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide, methane, or whatever, right? And it just goes up to the Earth's surface through volcanoes and so forth, and so atmosphere started to form. وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ. Allah SWT ends that ayat with this statement, and we created everything that is alive on earth from water. Everything is alive. So with water comes the first DNA. Because our DNA, right, our molecules, the molecules of life, right, we have this all these nucleic acid, they can only form with water. They can join with water. In fact, our cell is more watery than anything that is solid. About 70% of our cell is water. As much as our body is about 70% water, and as much as this earth is 70% water-based. It's not water-based, covered with water. What that? So that is the corresponding ratio that Allah keeps, right, constant, right, on earth. So DNA starts to form. Then we have a lot of tectonic activities, all this, what do you call it, earthquakes, moon was already there, and the moon started to pull the earth crust and And as it rotates around the Earth, the crust started to be attracted by the moon, and it collides with the other crust. And so there are a lot of earthquakes, and with earthquakes, there are a lot of volcanoes. So Earth was alive, a lively place. It's not something that is a dead place. With the formation of the moon caused the Earth to be alive. That is the very crucial role of the moon for us, for life on Earth. And then with all the tectonic activities, we have the first continent. Now the first continent started to form, right, when all this land mass started to collide each other and form the biggest continent ever, right? Almost all the land mass that we know right now, or lesser than that, right? Or more than that, we do not know, I'm really not sure. They will form together and form one solid land mass, not broken up like now, right now with all these continents. No, they were huge land mass. And scientists call it as Rodina, just a name given by them, right? And then, yes, the appearance of the prokaryote bacteria or prokaryote unicell. And then we have the banded iron formation, and then the great oxygenation event happened, and this thing I will discuss inshallah in further details next week inshallah, right? Because when we go into details, what Allah SWT has opened up the doors of knowledge through the scientists, right? When they discover these things, actually, subhanallah, it brings us much wonder. It humbles us actually on Allah's greatness, with Allah's creations, and everything Allah created, it goes into one objective. That is what? The formation of life on Earth. And the formation of life on Earth, all that goes into one objective later on, which is what? If you look from what you call it, anthrocentric point of view, which is human point of view, which is for the appearance of human beings, or the appearance of creatures with brain, consciousness, right, to know and to discover this Earth itself and their position in this grand scheme of things. So all these things leads to that. And it might be, I do not know, right? It might be that is why, right, we will be, or we are the last creature, or what do you call it, the last dominating life on Earth before its destruction by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because everything leads to us. Probably. I cannot say for sure, but probably that, because if you go back to our religion, our belief, that is the case. All right, so we're going to end here. We're going to continue inshallah next week. I'm sorry for the glitch that happened earlier. Let's see if there is any question. If there's no question, then we just end this lecture. Okay, there's one question here. To what extent of the evolutions of human animals can we as Muslims believe in? Very good question. Actually, there are lectures given. I've given several lectures on evolution itself. But in a nutshell, right? In a nutshell, one line that we should believe: nothing is impossible for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nothing is impossible for Allah, except associating partners to him. And that is impossible, right? Logically impossible and cannot happen. That is the only thing is impossible for Allah. Allah has no partners. Allah is the sole, the only one. Allahu Ahad. Not just Wahid. Wahid is number one, but Ahad means the sole one. But other than that, nothing is impossible for Allah. Allah can decree anything that Allah wants. Yaf'alu ma yasha. Allah can do whatever Allah wants. So that also encompasses, or that also includes evolution. So Allah, if Allah wants to create things, creatures on Earth through a process called evolution, that is not something that is against Islam. And if, let's say, science has proved beyond doubt that evolution can happen, so be it, right? And we have micro evolution. We can see evolution right now happening in front of our eyes. What is that? The what do you call it? The variants of the COVID virus. How the COVID virus evolved itself to suit us, to attack us. We invented the vaccine to kill the virus, to train our antibody to kill the virus. And the virus somehow, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is of course Allah's decree, right? The virus somehow with its own internal evolution, it can somehow modify its body, its protein spikes, so that it can be less effective for our antibodies to kill them. And it gets stronger from that point of view. So evolution is happening right now, we can see. But macro evolution, evolution from one species to another, from a bee to, let's say, from a fish to a mammal, and so forth. This actually, some scientists believe to be so, and I use the word believe, because there is no hard and fast evidence as yet to prove that this type of evolution really happening. It might be in the future we find that really solid evidence to show that yes, macro evolution actually happens, that there is a evolution, a changing of one species to another. It might be, right? But as of now, we say that even if that happens, it is not impossible in Islam, because Allah SWT never says that Allah created everything instantaneously just like that. Only us, human beings, right? Or not just us, only Nabi Adam alayhi salam, Allah SWT created instantaneously, not through evolution, in the shape of Homo sapiens. But us, we are created by so-called evolution. What is evolution? Is the micro changing of molecules and cells in our body. And we happen to I mean, our creation takes place like that, inside our mother's womb, from a shape of a creature that it does not resemble us. Right now, it resembles like a tadpole, and then after that, when it comes out from the mother's womb, it is a shape like a human being. And Allah mentions this in Surah Al-Hajj. What is that ayat? The early part of Surah Hajj, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, no, you can find that verse in early part of Surah Hajj or Surah Mu'minun. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that, and you come out from your mother's womb a different creature, different from how you were first formed. That is evolution for you inside the mother's womb, right? From one shape to another shape. Subhanallah. And Allah can create anything Allah wants in terms of shapes inside the mother's womb. And that is in early part of Surah Ali Imran. So evolution is something that is actually not against Islam, right? The only thing that is against Islam, if we believe that we, human beings, right, we as being us, thinking human beings evolved from apes, does not come from Nabi Adam alayhi salam, or Nabi Adam alayhi salam evolved from apes, and that is wrong. That is actually going against Al-Quran, and it can cause that person who believe it to be out of the fold of Islam, because it clearly states in the Quran that we come from Nabi Adam alayhi salam, and Nabi Adam was created by Allah SWT straight away from tin lazim, from clay, from earth that can congeals, blackened clay, that sort of thing, right? So we put a full stop on the creation of Nabi Adam alayhi salam. But other than that, horses, bees, animals, whatever, even Homo sapiens before us, because there are Homo sapiens before us, they might evolve from other Homo sapiens. They might evolve from Australopithecus, or they can evolve from Homo erectus. Homo erectus can evolve from some earlier forms, right? And then Neanderthals come from the earlier forms. There are a lot of Homo families around. I'm talking about Homo families as in really Homo families, not talking about the LGBTQ group of people, Homo families. Okay, so that is the sort of thing lah. So let's see. Okay, there is one here question now. But only we got akal or spirit, right? Yes. Not just us lah, of course. Allah SWT endowed the genes also with akal and also spirit, and also the angels. But they are metaphysical creatures. They are not physical creatures. For physical creatures, just us. So it might be, this is my thought, right? That when Allah SWT wants to endow spirit, and with spirit is the consciousness to think and to know, right, what is surrounding us, and to have that higher complex thinking. So when Allah SWT wants to endorse spirit, this is what I think it is, right? I might be wrong, right? So that is the caveat I want to give first. When Allah wants to create creature that Allah endows His spirit or His ruh, right? Allah creates that creature without evolution straight away. That creature comes into being. Angels straight away come to being. There we can't find in Hadith or in Quran that Allah created angels in the evolutionary what do you call it, mechanism, from a lower angel to a higher angel. Angels come packaged just like that, right? Boom, there's the angel. Genes are like that, right? Because they are given also akal, they're given also ruh, us, Nabi Adam alayhi salam. But those creatures before Nabi Adam alayhi salam, those Homo families, Homo sapiens, animal-like Homo sapiens, or Homo erectus, or Homo neanderthalis, they are not endowed with akal, they are not endowed with ruh. So their creation might take that evolution track slowly, gradually, but they are still animals, right? Like all other animals. They don't have that high faculty of thinking. So that is my thought, and I might be wrong, right? So that is why Allah SWT created Nabi Adam straight away without that evolution track, and then endowed him the superior mind, superior akal, superior brain, with all those neurons inside there, and then endowed Nabi Adam with spirit, his ruh, nafatha fihi ruh, nafatha wa nafakha fihi ruh. And then after that, Allah SWT taught Nabi Adam all the knowledge that Nabi Adam and his descendants need to survive on earth. So whatever we know, all our knowledge actually come from Nabi Adam alayhi salam, that initial knowledge that Allah has endowed upon Nabi Adam. So I always use this analogy that Nabi Adam alayhi salam was created in the shape of Homo sapiens. Homo sapiens have been roaming on earth for such a long time. They've been killing each other like animals, fighting, and that is why might be the angels somehow question Allah. Why you want to create a Khalifa in the shape of these Homo sapiens? Because we've already examples of them, right, on earth, fighting and killing like animals. They do not know better. Like Allah SWT says, I know what you do not know. So Allah created Nabi Adam and endowed him with superior hardware, and then downloaded in Nabi Adam alayhi with superior software. So you have a superior software with superior hardware in the shape of Homo sapien, and all other Homo sapiens on earth are animal-like. They do not have that spirit, the road, the higher thinking faculty. So when Allah put down Nabi Adam on earth, and he has his children, his descendants, and of course, by the virtue of survival of the fetus, all these animalistic Homo sapiens eventually wipe out by the higher thinking Homo sapiens that are the descendants of Nabi Adam alayhi salam. And finally, after thousands of years, tens of thousands of years, the only Homo sapiens that roam on this earth, that live on this earth, are the descendants of Nabi Adam alayhi salam. The one that is the superior Homo sapiens, and this is how we are. So when Allah SWT direct us or call upon us, Allah SWT use in the Quran, Ya Bani Adam, all children of Nabi Adam, and all Homo sapiens, from those Aborigines in Australia to those natives living deep in Amazon jungle, they are the sons of Nabi Adam alayhi salam. So that is the history of Nabi Adam salam in a nutshell. Okay, so that's about it. No more question. All right, thank you very much. We're going to continue, and we're going to continue the discussion again. We're going to meet again next week, inshallah. So we end with Tasbih Kafara and Surah Al-Asr. Subhanakallah bika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Al-Asr insana lafi khusr illa alladhina amanu wa amilu salihat wa tawasaw bil haqqi wa tawasaw bis sabr. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.